He views a federal jobs guarantee as a superior way to deal with the threat of automation. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I think most people want to work. They want to be a productive member of society. I think it's a very deeply ingrained feeling that people have. They don't want to sit on the side. Yes, of course, getting a guaranteed income is better than having nothing and sleeping out on the street. That's for sure. Our job is to say, if you are able to work, we have a job for you. Because the truth is, we have so much work to do to rebuild this country in so many ways.
What's your response to that?
Oh my gosh. Where do I start? So there are a few issues. The big one is that Bernie's presenting it as if the American people all aspire to work for the federal government, and many of us do not. That's not the vision we have for ourselves and our careers and our lives. The second thing that he misses is that if you put this money into our hands, it creates hundreds of thousands of jobs right in our communities where we live and work, work that we'd be excited about doing. The third thing is that there are all these implementation problems in real life if you were to have a federal jobs guarantee. What are the jobs? Who manages the people? What if you don't like your job? What if you're not good at your job? The spirit of it is fantastic, but the implementation would have a whole set of problems. But the biggest issue I have with this idea of a federal jobs guarantee is it ignores the sort of work that my wife does every day, who's at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. It ignores the kind of work that caregivers do every day, someone like Kyle Christensen, who's at home with his ailing mom in Iowa. A federal jobs guarantee does nothing for parents, nurturers, and caregivers. And to me, that's some of the most important work that any of us are doing.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I mean,
because one of your competitors, Joe Biden, was talking about that balance. I'll just play it for you. Take a listen.
Anybody who could go down 300 to 3,000 feet in a mine sure and hell can learn how to program as well. Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake.
Does he have that right?
He does not. I get along with Joe very well, but suggesting that former coal miners learn to code is not productive at all, and it doesn't line up with the reality that we all experience. The fact is that coding is like learning a foreign language that you have to become expert in. And that's not a realistic recommendation for millions of Americans. Instead, we have to stop confusing economic value and human value and put a dividend in place where we can all share in the incredible gains of the 21st century economy. That goes for the miners that Joe was referencing, that goes for the manufacturing workers here in Iowa, that goes for all of us.
Does that mean that you think basically Vice President Biden doesn't understand much of the way the economy works now in technology, that he said that because he thinks it sounds good, and you're saying that it's a fundamental misunderstanding that coding is a language that basically is more likely to be pursued in earlier education?
One of the things I've said, Ari, is that someone who suggests that coal miners become coders is generally neither of those things. If you look at the numbers, 8% of Americans work in STEM fields, 92% do not. It is not realistic to say to 92% of Americans to somehow shoehorn themselves into the 8%. We have to think much, much bigger about what the jobs of the future look like, not based upon a narrow conception of market value, but instead what our actual needs and desires and values are in our communities.
The only thing I worry about is that some total unknown that nobody ever heard of comes along.
Oh.